There are a number of simple functions which you can use to make doing calculations a little bit easier. The first one of those is called the sum function. We use the sum function when we want to add a list of numbers together. We start our function with the equal sign as usual, and then we type the word sum and open a bracket. You can see that there are a number of sum functions that do slightly different things, but we won't worry about those just yet. When we open the bracket, Excel gives us some hints about what we might want to type into that function area. So the hint that they give us is that we can have a series of numbers separated with commas. The square brackets mean that we don't have to have this one, but we could continue adding them, and that's what the 3 dots mean, for as long as we like. So if we wanted to add up the numbers in column B, we could say B2, comma, B3, comma, B4, comma, etc., until we were finished, and then we would close the bracket. And those numbers would be added for us, B2, B3, and B4. Note that there is no plus sign inside the brackets. If you put plus signs inside brackets, it will work in Excel, but you will be marked wrong by the examiner. So the other way of doing this, which is a little bit easier and takes less time, is to start the same way with your sum function and open the brackets. But now instead of putting the cell references in one by one, I'm going to go and highlight the whole column from B2 to B8, close the bracket, and press enter. You'll see here I have a range referenced from B2 to B8 with a colon in between, which tells Excel that we want everything in between those two different cell references. The next function that we're going to do is an average function. So we all know that when we work out the average of some numbers, what we have to do is take the sum of those numbers and then divide it by the number of numbers we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 values here. So we would take the sum and divide by 7. But Excel gives us an easier way to do this. So we're going to type our equals. We're going to type the whole word, average. Some other programs just use A, V, and E, but Excel uses average, the whole word. Now, same thing. Once we've opened the bracket, we're going to go and highlight the range. Be careful here. We don't want to include that sum value that we just did. We only want the values from the different students. And we close the bracket, we press enter, and the average for all of these students is 73 on this test. So now you can work out who is above average and who is below average. Now, that's rather a lot of decimal places. The very quick way of getting rid of decimal places from showing up on your screen is to use the decrease decimal and increase decimal buttons. And we can do that and round off our number, but there is no way that we can show that this has happened to an examiner. So there's a slightly different way that we can make this happen for an examiner, and that is to use the round formula. So the round formula will round off a number to the nearest decimal place. So if I said round, and I open the bracket, again, I get a hint. So what is the number I want to round off? And what is the number of digits that I want to round it off to? So if I wanted to round off my average, and I wanted no decimal places, then that would be my answer. You can see here it's leaving the decimal places in. So it's leaving the full stop and the 2 zeros in there. And that's because that is what is controlled by this function over here. But what the round function has done is it has actually taken that, looked at it, and rounded it off to the closest whole value, because I said I wanted no decimal places. Right. Then we have two functions that we can use to find the biggest number in a list and to find the smallest number in a list. To find the biggest number, we use the max function. Equals max, open the bracket, and then we highlight all the numbers that we want to have a look at. Again, I'm not including the totals that I've done over here and the average, etc. I'm just taking the original list of numbers. I'm closing the bracket. I'm pressing enter. 95 is the biggest number in this list of numbers. I'm going to make them a different color just to make them easier to see. Gosh, okay. Right, so the minimum I'm going to get by saying equals min. I'm not typing out the whole word, I'm just using that. Open the bracket and highlight my range. Close the bracket, press enter. 52 was the lowest mark that anybody got in this exam. Now, if I wanted to work out the range, in other words, the difference between the top mark and the bottom mark, what I could do was I could take the maximum mark and subtract from it the minimum mark. There we go. Close my bracket. So you can see my formula now says equals max B2 to B8 minus min B2 to B8. And we can string up these functions as much as we like. So we can add and subtract things from each other, and by using brackets, we can compound them as well. And that's how to use most of the basic functions that you'll need for your exam.